The lecture hall of the Galactic Xenobiology Institute fell silent as Professor Zalther's tentacles manipulated the holographic display, cycling through images of humanity's homeworld. The assembled students, a collection of species from 47 different star systems, leaned forward in their seats. Their various appendages, sensory organs, and translation devices focused intently on the presentation. Earth, Zalther announced, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into Common Galactic, is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. Only 3 other planets in known space share this dubious distinction. In the back row, Jin shifted uncomfortably in her specially reinforced seat. She'd been the only human at the Academy for 2 standard cycles now, and she'd grown accustomed to being a curiosity. But today's lecture was hitting differently. Let us begin with the atmospheric composition. The professor continued. Earth's atmosphere contains 21% oxygen, a highly corrosive and reactive gas. Most civilized species require oxygen concentrations below 5% to avoid cellular damage. Jin watched as her classmate Krith, a methane breather from the shadowed depths, physically recoiled at the image. She couldn't help but smile slightly. The planet experiences regular meteorological catastrophes. Zalther went on, pulling up footage of a hurricane spiraling across an ocean, cyclonic storms with wind velocities exceeding 100 kilometers per hour, electrical discharges of over 1 billion volts, temperature fluctuations of 40 degrees within a single rotation. Jin's hand slowly rose. The professor noticed but continued. The tectonic instability alone would discourage colonization by any rational species. The crust is fractured into multiple plates that grind against each other, causing violent seismic events and volcanic eruptions that, Professor, Jin interrupted, her voice carrying across the hall. Stop, you're describing my childhood. Every sensory organ in the room swiveled toward her. The Vrelian student beside her edged away slightly, his carapace clicking nervously. Zalther's eye stalks bent in what Jin had learned was curiosity. Cadet Jin, perhaps you could provide context. She stood, her human frame towering over most of the seated students. The storms, we called them hurricane season. We'd tape up the windows and make a game of it. My brother Helen and I used to compete to see who could sleep through the loudest thunder. Your brother, Krith whispered to his neighbor. She survived such events with a sibling offspring. The oxygen thing, Jin continued, warming to her subject. Yeah, we breathe it. That's normal. And those temperature swings? That's just cold weather. You dress differently. Sometimes you need a jacket. She shrugged, a gesture that made several students flinch at the sudden movement. Professor Zalther's skin flushed a pale blue embarrassment. Jin had learned. Yes, well, moving on to the biological hazards. Earth harbors an estimated 8 million species, many of which pose significant threats to sentient life. The hologram shifted to display a shark, its teeth gleaming in crystal-clear detail. The apex predators of Earth's oceans can detect electromagnetic fields and trace amounts of biological compounds from kilometers away. They possess multiple rows of serrated teeth designed to, we swim with those, Jin interjected. She pulled out her data tablet and flicked an image to the main display. It showed a younger Jin and Helen, both grinning, treading water in open ocean. In the background, several shark fins were clearly visible. The lecture hall erupted in gasps, clicks, and alarmed pheromone releases. That was off the coast of Australia, Jin explained. Helen dared me to jump off the boat. They're actually pretty chill if you don't bother them. Australia, Zalther said weakly, consulting his notes. Yes, the continent containing the highest concentration of venomous species on the planet. Spiders whose neurotoxins can cause system failure. Jellyfish whose stings create pain so intense that my grandmother lived in Melbourne, Jin said. She kept a stick by the back door for funnel webs. Just, scoop them up and toss them back into the bush. She demonstrated the motion, and the Vrelian student actually fell out of his seat in panic. Professor Zalther's tentacles were now curling defensively around his body. Perhaps we should discuss the microbial environment. Earth is teeming with bacteria, viruses, and parasitic organisms. The immune system required to survive such an onslaught must be pretty standard, actually. Jin interrupted again. We get sick sometimes. Usually we just sleep it off. Drink some fluids. Take some medicine if it's bad. Helen got food poisoning once and was back to playing soccer in 2 days. The term soccer went untranslated, but the casual dismissal of systemic infection was clear enough. A brave student, a crystalline lithivore named Shardax, raised one geometric appendage. Cadet Jin, how did your species survive such conditions? Surely your evolution was guided by advanced technology or interventionist. Nope, Jin said cheerfully. We just adapted, walked upright, made tools, figured out fire, hunted things bigger than us by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion, built shelters, formed communities. She paused. Honestly, we thought this was all normal until we got into space and met you guys. Zelther seemed to have composed himself slightly. Yes, the persistence hunting. I was going to address Earth's gravitational force, which has resulted in humans possessing skeletal and muscular density far exceeding galactic norms. This allows them to engage in prolonged physical activity. I jog 3 miles every morning here, Jin said. The reduced gravity makes it easier, actually. Back home, Helen and I used to hike mountain trails for fun. 15, 20 miles sometimes, just for the weekend. For fun, Krith repeated faintly. The psychological adaptations alone, Zelther continued desperately, would be remarkable. The constant threat of predation, environmental catastrophe, and resource scarcity must have created a species prone to paranoia, aggression. And we write poetry about it, Jin said softly. Paint pictures, make music, tell stories around campfires. She smiled, and several students registered it as a threat display before their translators clarified it as a pleasure response. Yeah, Earth is dangerous, but it's also beautiful. The sunset after a storm, the smell of rain on soil, the sound of ocean waves. The lecture hall was completely silent now. My little brother Helen, Jin continued, he's studying xenobotany now. Wants to help terraform marginal worlds to make them livable for species whose home planets are dying. She looked directly at Professor Zelther. That's what growing up on a death world teaches you. Not just how to survive, how to help others thrive. Professor Zelther's tentacles slowly unfurled. His skin shifted to a deep purple respect. Jin had learned. Class dismissed, he said quietly. Cadet Jin, if you would remain behind. I believe we have much to discuss about revising this curriculum. As the other students filed out, giving Jin a wide berth, she caught fragments of their conversations. Explains the military contracts, can't believe they evolved naturally. Remind me never to visit Earth. Jin smiled and walked toward the professor's podium, her footsteps heavy in the reduced gravity, carrying the weight of her world with practiced ease.